Welcome dear 1000 PS friends, the KTM 3090 Super Adventure EVO, a real powerhouse, is here. KTM has unveiled it and I even had the chance to ride a prototype. So if you're interested, stay tuned. The KTM 1290 Super Adventure was already quite popular and was always one of the sportier models in the luxury and big touring enduro scene. It also had a sporty look, although it never quite stole my heart. That has now changed with the 1390. I think the new face, which we saw last year on the Duke 990 and Super Duke 1390, fits much better into this touring enduro setting and suits this mighty machine far better. I find it much more appealing now. The headlight has also been significantly revised and we now have cornering lights. Overall, the appearance feels more coherent to me compared to its predecessor. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Has it gotten better, worse, or stayed the same? Ergonomically, there have also been a few changes. The seat has been redesigned, leading to a change in ergonomics. The foot peg position is lower too. For me, the 1290's ergonomics were already great, but now the knee angle is even more relaxed and the foot pegs are a bit wider. I believe this is a useful change for those who want to take the bike off-road. Now let me talk a bit about the wind protection on the prototype. I had a 20-minute session with this Super Adventure and I noticed the wind protection is still excellent. As I mentioned, the windscreen is still adjustable with a hand wheel, which is a great feature. You really feel like you're sitting behind a huge motorcycle, and that hasn't changed. In this regard, it's really good. Where they've also made improvements is with the suspension. KTM is fortunate to have their in-house suspension development center, WP, located right next door in Munderfing. This means they have constant communication, and the semi-active suspension from the 1290 has been significantly revised. Now we have even finer tuning options due to new sensors for pulse width modulation. Additionally, the fork has been redesigned with a different construction, combining elements from both open and closed cartridge systems. I've already had a chance to try it out briefly, but of course a thorough test will be needed to see how it performs in practice. As for the frame, they've increased its rigidity, so that's the chassis. But now let's get to the heart of the bike. Let's talk about the engine. Like the Super Duke, this one now also has a camshift engine. That means we have two camshaft profiles and now 1350cc. And with that, the Super Adventure delivers 173 horsepower at 9,500 RPM, making it the leader again, surpassing the Ducati Multistrada. Whether you need that much power in a touring enduro is up for debate, but they couldn't really put in less than what the 1290 had. In terms of torque, it's now 145 Newton meters, just like the GS, but I noticed from reading the technical specs that it reaches this torque at 8,000 revolutions per minute, which is considerably later than the 1290, which achieved it at 6,750 revolutions. From my experience and the brief test I had with the prototype, I can tell you that it still pulls massively from low revs, so you don't need to worry about that. KTM also introduced the AMT automated manual transmission a few weeks ago, and now it's making its first practical debut in this Super Adventure 1390 S EVO. You can choose between two operating modes. Either you have full automatic or you can shift manually, either using two buttons on the left handlebar or via the foot shift lever. I tried this AMT myself, though it was still a prototype, and they mentioned that it's not the final version. Still, you could get a good sense of how it will be, and I have to say, the automated shifting was really smooth. When I used the hand buttons to shift, there was a noticeable jolt through the bike though, but what stands out to me is how fast the shift times are. KTM claims 50 milliseconds. That's incredibly quick, even faster than the Quick Shifter Plus they've installed so far. KTM isn't the only one with an AMT. Nowadays, quite a few manufacturers offer automated transmissions like this. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments if you think this is useful, especially for such a big touring bike, or if you think it makes more sense on a sporty machine. Let me know your thoughts. When you get on the bike, you have an 8-inch horizontal TFT touchscreen display in front of you. I think it fits really well into the bulky front of the bike. The touchscreen has been heavily refined, so we have anti-glare to prevent reflections and anti-fingerprint, so you don't see smudges when you use it without gloves. It can also supposedly be operated with gloves. During our ride, I had summer gloves and it worked perfectly fine with them. The ride modes are displayed very intuitively, so you immediately understand what the system is doing when you switch modes, for example. It's really nice overall. KTM has also integrated an internal memory in what they call the V80 module, 32 gigabytes with 3 gigabytes of RAM. And we used to have that in a computer, and now it's in a motorcycle. There's an available eSIM, GPS, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi. The software capabilities will also expand, and there will be an offline navigation system, though we don't have details on that yet. I'll probably be able to tell you more about it at the official launch. All in all, I think it integrates really well here. And of course, you can make adjustments through the display, including for the ACC, the adaptive cruise control. Here's a big but. While it's already familiar from the 1290 on the 3090 with the combination of this AMT, it's supposed to be able to decelerate all the way to a stop once you set the cruise control, and it can also start moving again. I'm really curious to see how that will work in practice. I wonder if a small disclaimer will pop up on the display saying, please put your foot down now so you don't tip over when you're at a stop. During this prototype test ride, I didn't know that the system already had this capability. Otherwise, I would have tried it out. So we'll have to wait until the official launch. Something that might be a bit more practical, especially for those who opt for the manual transmission, is the revised braking assistant. A new front radar sensor from Bosch has been installed, and both the collision and distance warnings have been fine-tuned. For example, trucks are now better detected, and something I find very interesting, there will be a mode for group rides. This refers to staggered riding, which we all know from riding in groups. Somehow, this should also work with the cruise control system. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that will be implemented. Lastly, I want to talk a bit about availability, price, and maybe even other model versions, and how this compares to competitors. The KTM 1390 Super Adventure S EVO will be available at the start of the 2025 season. We'll get to test it in early February. The launch is then, so you can expect the first videos on 1000 PS during the first week of February. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. As for the price of this Super Adventure S EVO, that's the big question. I can only imagine it will be more expensive than the current 1290, which is priced at 23,990 euros in Austria and 21,599 euros in Germany. Right now, there are significant discounts on both models, with the VAT being waived. So, for those of you who prefer the 1290 or feel it's more refined, now might be a good time to buy, as long as you're okay with missing out on all the new features. And as I already mentioned regarding model variants, if there's an S EVO, it's quite likely that at some point there might be an S version without the semi-active suspension. There's also been speculation about an R model, and there have been some spy shots already. So I think we can expect quite a lot from KTM in 2025 based on this platform. I believe they're in a strong position with this lineup. Looking at the competition, Ducati has also just revised the Multistrada, which Frankie is testing this week. We'll see what the update has brought. It hasn't added more power, so with 170 horsepower, I think Ducati is still well equipped. The GS and Tiger were updated for the 2024 season, so there's nothing new there except for the GS Adventure, which just came out. And as for Harley Davidson and whether anything will change with the Pan America, we don't know at this point. But I can tell you, having been lucky enough to ride this prototype, there's really something to look forward to. It's still incredibly agile for such a massive touring motorcycle. Regarding weight, we won't see much of an increase. We saw with the 1390 Super Duke compared to the 1290 that the weight gain was minimal, and it will be similar with the 1390 Adventure. I'll provide more detailed specs as soon as we have them. Thank you for your attention. Let me know in the comments what you think of the 1390. give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, and please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the news for 2025, which will be flooding in with the EICMA. Take care and ciao.